There's a human on Earth. Earth, a planet and object in outer space with other humans, and a human as an example. Humans on Earth, other than the human who's an example. Have missiles to leave Earth and go to the moon. Missiles to leave Earth and never return. Teslas and quantum computers. Diamond jewelry. And lots and lots and lots and lots of money. But could care less other than what they observe about the human who's an example. And the human who's an example doesn't have these options available. The human who's an example doesn't have a house, a mansion, a yacht, a boat, and a house. The human who's an example doesn't have a Tesla and an Uber and a connector bus and a flight to a vacation. And not only does the human example lack these parts of this example as a whole, but the other humans harass, assault, and bully the human who's an example. I'm describing not so different than a Holocaust, where a human has to go where the other humans tell the human to go, with no options available other than the death and the dying I'm doing now. Musicians and geniuses who commit suicide to avoid what I'm talking about now, who in the Holocaust were put to death in gas chambers and shot in their heads, similar to what the man said I should be down the street in Washington State. Humans are watching the human example, the human who's an example, listening to the human who's an example, talking about the human who's an example, and then going home, going to their Microsoft cubicle in their office, in their home. They're going to work in their economy. They're going to their job in their economy. They're going to visit their friend in the economy where they spend money. They're going to their job in the economy where they earn money. Saying to the human who's an example, they're baffled. I'm a retard. Humans telling the human who's an example, I am a retard. Telling the human who's an example, they're a retard. Meanwhile, feeding their dogs walking their dogs, taking their dogs hundreds of miles to hike up a mountain, returning home to Seattle and Washington State and protesting and making activism about climate change after driving their vehicle and after throwing away their plastic they used at the business they visited. Staring at me and pointing at me and yelling at me and screaming at me, "Get the fuck out of here. Leave, get the fuck out, get the fuck out of, get the fuck out of here." Yelling and yelling and yelling at me. The human who's an example similar to the Holocaust. Who's 38 years old. Who the other humans required to survive cancer. So in other words, the other humans kept me, the human who's an example, alive. In these conditions I'm describing as a human on Earth who other humans stare at and look at and listen to and observe. Baffled how they could help another human with such little available and so much they have to do to have their Tesla and to have their electric battery. For their home. In their house. In their apartment. In their social housing. In outer space.